Patrice,
Yes.
what are your thoughts on publishing deals?
Okay. So, like anything, there could be pros and cons to things. First and foremost, it's funny because I was just having a conversation with an individual who I adore, who lived locally to me and moved maybe like 8 years ago to Nashville. And originally pursuing some music, then kind of shifted gears. That being said, knows tons of musicians and has basically said it's become the new LA, which kind of makes sense to me. I feel like everyone just kind of like moved over and went over there. That being said, it also, we were talking about that there's so many people down there that are just pursuing publishing deals. And that's when you are paid by a publishing company to write songs, which, hey, that sounds pretty good. But there are some kind of downfalls to that in the sense of two things, right? I recall a story of someone, I'm not going to name, they got a sync placement for an end credit movie along with BB Rexa. And so it was a 6-figure payout, but they saw none of that. None of the payment. Because when you get a publishing deal, it's kind of like a loan. Like you're getting paid, and then when money comes in, you then have to pay that back to them. So they're going to take whatever money you're getting in from any songwriting or songs that you made until you kind of paid that back. So you're getting paid to write for people, and that is wonderful. So it gives you more time to hone in on your skills. But ultimately, you're going to have to pay that back. And so, yeah, just food for thought there. You can be like, oh man, I got a great placement in something, but now you're not seeing any of that money because you ultimately still have to pay him back. So people may say, well, I'm still getting paid at the end of the day, and that's great. The other element with that, even speaking of sync, is there's a lot of contracts I signed that they want to make sure you don't have a publishing deal. They don't want you to be involved in that. I think it just becomes a little messy because some of the sync agents, some of the libraries, they come in on the publishing end of it. So they just don't want all of those hands in the pot. And I think just like the legalities of it, they just want if you're independent. So it's shined upon actually if you don't. Like I just was reading a contract and signing something for one of my songs, and it literally states like, you know, do you have a publishing deal? They don't want you to, or any of these companies, So that's the kind of thing about it is it can lead to opportunity because you're writing within these groups, in these songwriting groups, so you can get to at these big, you know, if it's a big publishing company, at these, you know, they're going to have access to different heads in the industry, so you can get to know people. This individual that had a publishing deal, I don't believe they still do. They're now signed. So that's great. So they were able to kind of like evolve and move throughout the industry and make connections and move to that next level. So it seems like it's serving them. You can kind of look at it both ways is what is your end goal is what I kind of say, and anything can always lead to opportunity. And the biggest thing too would be to read contracts, right? Like sometimes we can think, especially as we're starting, like, oh my God, I need this. And it's like, no, they need you just as much. And obviously if they're approaching you too, think about it this way. Like you got something they want. So you're doing something right if they're coming to you or they're kind of like soliciting you. So, you know, don't just sell yourself short because you feel like you need to get in there. Make sure you read the contract. How long are you in it? A lot of times too with these songs, you are going to have to potentially pay forever on these songs out to them or certain things like that. So, yeah, good, bad, I don't know. I used to think it was a cool thing, and not to say it's not. Not to say it's not. But I just don't have a desire. It's not really a push. Just because for me, it's like, I think there's so many tools right now as independent artists, and I really love the sync game of things that I think can really work for you. So it's not as enticing. I don't want that kind of commitment attached with a company that it's a loan, and that kind of idea with it, right? And yeah, I just like my independence. I like where I'm at right now. So So yeah, drop a comment if you have a publishing deal and you are loving it. If you've had a publishing deal and you're like, wasn't my thing. Or you're kind of neutral about it. Or you have questions. Like, sky's the limit, guys. All right, till next time.
That was good.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you want to do the same thing with like a label video, or is that too repetitive?
We could. You could just space them out.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Patrice,
Yes.
what are your thoughts on label deals?
I used to really, really want one. I was like, I want a labeling deal! And that was like my thing. And I had a dear friend, or friends, they were a girl group, and I adored them and loved them, still adore them, love them, they're amazing. But they get a deal. They landed a deal with Universal Motown. And I watched the process there, and there was a lot of great things with it. They got to write with amazing people. I remember going up into the studio and meeting Red One, who he broke like Lady Gaga with not I'm losing the words, but you probably know it. You don't even care about the words. You just remember the melody of that. So that being said, that's like a perk of a label, is I think there's an aspect of connections and resources. But just like I mentioned in a previous video with publishing, all of this is like a loan, right? You're given these things, but you're gonna have to pay back, right? And so, that's just food for thought, is that they also, with that, you're in a contract. So there's certain things that you can and can't do, right? And so it can limit you on certain realms. Sometimes if you're in that contract and they're not working for you, in some regards, they can how do I say, you can be in that contract and sign for like 2 years that you can get out of that, and you cannot release any music until you're out of that. And say something goes sour and all of a sudden the group breaks up or something. And now it's like, okay, great. You as an artist can't put anything out till you're done with that contract. Or say you have a fallout. I mean, we kind of saw this with Kesha, right? With the whole incident that happened there. It was pretty dirty, right? There was like a lot of stuff. She couldn't release her music. She couldn't release new music. I think she could still like work with people, but I think a lot of that was shut down. So, it's like anything. You just gotta read contracts. You gotta make sure that you don't just jump on things because you feel like you need it, that you're almost desperate for that you can't go anywhere on your own, right? Because you really, really can. You can build your own team. And you want to make sure, look at Taylor Swift, right? Like all of a sudden she's redoing all of her masters because they had all of that. And being young, and I wouldn't say that it didn't work for her. She is where she is, and she's I think she's a smart woman, because she was like, screw you. Whoop! I have to poop that one out. That kind of flew up quick. But she was like, screw you. I'm not going to redo all my masters and redistribute all these songs. And I thought that was kind of funny and clever all in the same thing. So yeah, you can watch enough artists where labels have pros and cons. Everything does. And I think it's just kind of what best suits you, and really making sure you look through the contracts. And there's so much you can do as independent artists nowadays. Chance the Rapper, local to me, Joyner Lucas. Right? Yeah. Why did that sound so weird? That sounded so weird for a second. Anyways, you know what I'm talking about. But there's lots of independent artists that are really killing it, and there's a lot more liberty to do things on their terms. Probably more importantly that I'd say to an artist, prior to any kind of labels, look for really great management. Someone who can really help you to sort through things. That might be your first great step, is start by doing the process a lot of times yourself, booking shows and so forth, but there can be booking agents and managers, and then just be really cautious with those individuals that they're sincere people and they're good people and they have a good track record. If enough people are saying they're shady and they're, just shady, think of like Cookie, then, you know, just listen to that, even if they paint a picture, because at some point when you get in this industry, someone knows someone. It's kind of how it goes, where you're going to be like, oh my God, especially if you're new, you're like, wow. And then it comes, but you're like, keep hearing, like, maybe that's not the best thing, but you're like, yeah, but they know so-and-so, and you're like, Anyways, do your homework. Don't just fall for things. Know that you have opportunities with the label, and equally so without. So, hope that helps.